And we have come to the deadline of NXT's yearly PLE events for this year. God, that was a terrible intro, but that's okay.
There you go.
That'll do something for somebody out there on the internet land. But hello, all you beautiful Bi-Conics wrestling fanatics out there, and welcome to another edition of the Ringmasters of Reveal, where the Grapple Gurus, as we have called ourselves for our pay-per-view and PLE review team, are going to sit down for the next 45 minutes to an hour. Maybe we say that all the time, never happens. But we are here to review another exquisite event. This time, the Los Chicos Gordos team of myself and Will are here to review WWE's NXT Deadline 2023 PL, coming from all the way from Connecticut. Yes, I have it written in my notes. I should have looked at it first. This is off to a great start, which actually kind of is the same way I feel about this pay-per-view. I didn't want to say it was inherently bad. I really enjoyed the pay-per-view. There were some highs, there was a little bit of lows, but I feel like for a last pay-per-view of the year, as we were talking before we started recording, I feel that this was kind of ending to 2023 for NXT. And that's saying a lot because I've watched every single NXT pay-per-view this year. And I have to say this one is at the bottom of my list, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. But there are other ones that I rank higher based on the card that we got, because as we'll discuss, outside of the Iron Survivor challenges, there are lots of questions I have about the other matches we got.
Yeah, some were almost ridiculously, why are they here? I mean, honestly, there's one in particular that I'm thinking about. And it's like, other than to settle a score or whatever the hell, I'm like, why is that necessary? I didn't understand why it was necessary. I really didn't.
Yeah, you know what? That was the one match I was like, I don't know how this is where I wanted to go with it, bro. And I was like, at first I was like, I had to sit upon it because I had to think about it for a little bit.
I'm also kind of over the conspiracy theory bullshit.
We'll get into that when we get to that particular match. But let's just jump straight in. So really quickly, we did have our pre-show match.
We did.
We had Axiom taking on Nathan Frazier, so this was a match that was supposed to happen on Tuesday, and we already discussed our feelings about it being interrupted by the women's brawls. Usually, listen, I love me a good girl fight, but like we expressed in our NXT review from this past Tuesday, go check out that review, shameless plug. I was mad. The women steamrolled Axiom and Nathan Frazier, and I was kind of upset. So they decided to have this match on the pre-show. As expected, they blew the roof off the place. I was like, Lord have mercy. They were fast. They were quick.
Yeah. There was one when that one, and I think there was one when Axiom was doing a power driver on
Nathan.
Yeah, Nathan. And I could have sworn he broke his neck. I swear to God. I was like, there's no way that ended well. Like, I was literally like, but I was waiting to see if he was going to be moving or not.
Yeah, that terrified me to no end. I was just like, oh no. But both of them ended up coming out okay at the end of this match. And Axiom picks up the win here, as we predicted. And I think as he should, because Axiom really hasn't gotten a chance to showcase a lot within the last couple months or so.
And again, and this is an irritating thing, this match should have been in the main. I mean, it should have. And the one that I had the issue with could have been perfect in the pre-show.
Oh, yeah, I totally agree.
I mean, because this one makes more sense in the grand scheme of what would happen in Deadline than that other one did. So I feel
like we said the same thing with the pre-show match that happened at
We did.
Between Kelani and Blair, but you know.
Like, why is this in the pre-show? This was so good, because this was actually really good. I was like, oh, hey, all right, we're starting this off good.
This match was a lot of fun, and, you know, at this point, I was starting off strong. I was like, yes, I am 1-0. It can only go up from here. And boy, howdy, was I horribly wrong. I was horribly wrong with the rest of this, so.
Yeah, I couldn't remember who I had chosen, but I'm pretty sure I chose most of the ones you did. I think we were pretty close across the board, so I just went along with the idea that I didn't get any of them. So
following my coattails. No, I'm just kidding.
No, it truly. I was like, I will not.
We are literally the same person, just in two different bodies.
Yep.
Alrighty. So from the pre-show, we after we get like the intro for Deadline, which again, I love NXT's intros. No Mercy still is one of my favorites when they did the old school video game intro of everything that we were getting, which was fun. So we kick off with Shawn Michaels coming down to the ring. And then I was like, oh, HBK, I love you, Shawn Michaels. But I was like, time is coming and catching up to you and is about to take your Horcrux. Like,
oh my God, I was like, he's going to fall down. There was a couple of times he kind of teetered a bit.
I was like, sweet baby Jesus, come help this man.
Yeah, that's why I was like, I think the zombie apocalypse has begun. Oh, wait, no, that's just Shawn Michaels.
So Shawn Michaels, is trying to get the crowd hype. And then music of a one CM Punk, plays out. So CM Punk doing his tour now that he's back in WWE. It's been the talk of the town for the last week and a half. He does kind of a promo, but not really. And then him and Shawn Michaels kind of bury the hatchet and then take a selfie. And then we start the pay-per-view properly. I was like, okay. I was like, this was weird. This was a weird way to start the show. And it didn't sit right in my stomach because I was just like, okay, I get the feeling we're going to get some weirdness for the rest of the show now. And boy, was I right.
And they were teasing that he might sign with NXT.
I was like, no.
I was like, no way.
Spoiler alert.
He's so hot. I mean, no.
He's not going to be an NXT. Now, honestly, though, that would be a gag if you sign with NXT. I'd be like, yo, that'd be kind of fire. Because CM Punk has said that he does want to start training the newer generation of kids, but I was just like, as much as I would love that, he's not going to sign with NXT. And spoiler alert, at the time of this recording, I just watched Monday Night Raw, and we all knew it. I hate when they do this. They're like, where is he going to sign? I was like, bro, he's going to Monday Night Raw, and lo and behold, he signed to Monday Night Raw tonight. Because you have him on Raw and Randy Orton on SmackDown. Like, that is what it is. Like, the two biggest returns that keep them separate brands. So, I had a feeling that things were going to get weirder, and they did, which we'll talk about. But before we get to the weirdness, I actually want to talk about some stuff I liked. So, we start with our first official match of Deadline, which is for the NXT North American Championship, which is having the challenger, Dragon Lee, take on champion Dominic Mysterio. Now, we have already stated, but to briefly bring up the audience to the speed, this match was changed literally the very last minute because a couple days before Deadline, we got word and we had the promo from NXT on Tuesday that Wesley had to withdraw from the match because he needed major back surgery because he can't feel anything below his waist and the numbness is there. So he has to have major back surgery, which is going to put Wesley out for 8 to 12 months. And we've already cried on NXT about it, and it still doesn't make me feel any better. So
they went back and to clip from it. I was like, no.
Listen, me and Will are invested in our babies here in NXT, so it hurt me.
It hurt.
I was like, we just got him back.
I know. I was so excited to see where he was going, and then this happened, and I feel so bad for him. It's more, I'm not pissed. I feel so horrible for him because he literally just got back and he was re-energized, and it was like, yes, Wes was back, and we were all excited, and then this happened, and I was just like, oh, and I felt so bad for him. I didn't care about me personally. I was like, yes, I wanted to see him come in and take his title back and settle his score with Dom and all that, but the minute he started talking, I was just like, I'm like, baby, you go do you go take care of you, because this has to heal first. It's like, we'll get you back in that ring. Don't you worry about it. You go get better.
I felt bad for Wes, and then I also, outside of characters, I also felt really bad for Dominic too, because Dominic still get to have the match, and I have to give props to Dragon Lee for stepping in last minute to kind of substitute in, and I give the build for the to this match a little bit of grace because everything literally got changed last minute due to unforeseen circumstances. The match itself was actually a lot better than I thought it was going to be. Now, the only critique I have about this match is that, granted, he can't really do much, but I'm like, Ray didn't really need to be out there, And I thought him and Dominic would interact more, like Dominic would get in his face. But honestly, that never really happened. And I was surprised. But then again, you don't want to do anything where potentially you can further injure Ray.
Yeah.
This is a fun match.
It was fun, but you're right. I didn't understand why Ray was there. Because, honestly, there was no sense of contention between him and Dominic. I think Dominic looked over at him a couple of times, but there was no interplay. It was just sort of like, okay, whatever. And so, they just literally had him there as a glorified announcer, really. And I was just sort of like, well, okay, I guess. But I thought it actually became a little distracting, actually, to have him there.
I kind of agree, because him and Booker were kind of as funny as it was for him and Booker to be arguing on commentary. It kind of distracted me a little bit from what was actually happening in the ring.
Yep.
And this is where I knew that things were going to go off the rails for predictions, because I did not pick Dragon Lee to win. But I'm happy that he is. Though I am curious now to see what we do with this championship, because technically Dragon Lee is now on main roster on SmackDown. But I guess he can hold on to it, because if Dominic can be on Monday Night Raw and be the NXT North American champion, you can have Dragon Lee be on SmackDown with that title and then just go back and forth. Oh, speaking of NXT, this is kind of related news. Since we're talking about SmackDown with Dragon Lee being a SmackDown star, over on SmackDown, they're having a tournament to see who will be facing for the United States Championship for main roster. And the participants were announced, so it's a bunch of the men's SmackDown roster. And then they announced that they would have one NXT participant compete in this tournament. And over social media, over the weekend, Shawn Michaels revealed which NXT star is going to be participating in this tournament, which I think is a great showcase. And it makes sense that the NXT star is Carmelo Hayes himself, which I was like, ooh, okay, let's see. Big test for Carmelo to see how he does on main roster for a little bit. I don't think he's going to win the title, but I'm not worried about Carmelo. I think he's ready for main roster.
And I think it's time for him to go, honestly. Storyline-wise, I think we're running out.
I think when we finish this Trick Mello game breakup storyline, I think he should move to main roster, because I think he's ready for main roster.
Yeah.
I also think Braun is ready for main roster too, honestly. But that's neither here nor there. We're going to talk about both of them later. So I'm really happy that Dragon Lee is new NXT champion, which means to tell me that Dominic was going to lose this title anyways, whether it was Dragon Lee or so. I'm excited to see what Dragon Lee does with his title reign. And the fact that he's only been in the company for a couple months and he's already holding championship gold is beautiful to watch. Cannot wait. All right, from here, we then get our Women's Iron Survivor Challenge match. And I gotta say, this was a fun match. So this match, I also really appreciated, because they answered one of my biggest questions was, okay, so the winner gets a future championship match. When? And then they announced in the rules that the winner will be facing for the NXT Women's Championship at New Year's Evil on January 2nd. So literally in like 4 weeks. I was like, cool. So the rules states in a summarized version that we will have 2 superstars start in the ring, and then every 5 minutes a new superstar will enter. You gain a pinfall, submission, or a DQ, and the person that is on the receiving end of getting pinned or DQ'd or taps out would have to go to the penalty box. And boy howdy, that penalty box came into play this particular match, because certain meddlesome metaphor got involved with this some point. It was funny to watch. And I'm kind of disappointed in the men. I was like, these women use the box more for violence. I was like, we'll talk about that one spot I love. But we start out with Fallon Henley. I was like, yes, cowboy goodness. I love you, girl. And then I was like, oh, you're about to get your ass kicked. And I have to say, for the first 5 minutes of this match, Fallon kind of handled herself against Blair very well. I was like, yo, I'm kind of rooting for Fallon all of a sudden.
I was too.
Like, this is crazy. So Fallon and Blair keep going back and forth within the 5 minutes. And they get a lot of near falls, but no pin. And then after 5 minutes, we get our third entrant of Tiffany Stratton. So Ms. Barbie Quinn Hurst. Yo, Tiffany was vicious this match. I was like, she was more violent this match than I've ever seen. I'm kind of here for violent Tiffany. She was hitting harder.
Huh? She was. I was like, damn, girl, get it.
Yes. And it was when Tiffany was in here over the course of the next 5 minutes that we finally got our first pinfall. Blair got the first point, and then from there, it was online Donkey Kong. So 5 more minutes passes by, and our number 4 entrance is Kalani Jordan. Then from here, Fallon gets a pinfall. And then finally, after that happens and 4 women are trying to pinfall each other, the 5th and final entrant, Lash Legend, enters. Girl did not waste no time because she picked up 2 pinfalls at once when she came in. And so she was in the lead. I'm like, oh my God, is Shawn Michaels about to let Lash Legend win this match? This match had me all over the place in terms of who was going to win. So now that all 5 women are in, let's talk about the rest of this match, because one of my favorite spots was Fallon and Tiffany fighting in the penalty box. They're like literally watching Fallon and Tiffany, like mostly Fallon, like take Tiffany's head and throw it against the penalty box.
It was so funny.
Yes, there was only one really scary spot, and I think you know what I'm going to talk about. Kalani Jordan goes up to the top and does like a moonsault, and I thought her head caught the corner of that announcer's desk. I was like, oh my God, not my baby. I legit like gasped. I was like, and then it happened again when she jumped on all the women.
I know.
I felt like the commentator desk was way too close to the ring, because I was like, isn't it normally a little bit further than that?
See, I thought so. I thought it was very close, like closer than normal. Or at least it felt like they had an awful lot of room behind it.
Mm-hmm.
I was just like, y'all just want people to hit that table did get a workout. This whole
especially
night.
During the men's match, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But so the other part is that as Fallon's on top of it, she jumps on Metaphor. No, not Fallon. Somebody gets pushed off the top of the box and goes onto the table.
Yeah,
I think it was Fallon at some point. Yeah, Tiffany pushed Fallon off into the table, which was funny to watch. Metaphor tried to block the box to prevent them from going. And I was like, oh, that kind of sucks. And then I was like, oh, wait, duh. They climbed to the roof, which was a lot of fun. So from there, at this point, Blair ties up the score with Lash at 2 apiece. And then literally the last 15 seconds, Blair gets one last pinfall as Lash is trying to chase her to get it back. But fortunately and unfortunately for Lash, Blair Davenport with the final score of 3. Will, what did you think of your first ever Women's Iron Survivor Challenge and the way that it was set up?
I liked it. I mean, I like the setup of it. I like the 25 minutes. You know, every 5 minutes someone comes in. I love the penalty box, because the penalty box is fun to watch. Because it was, I put a bunch of angry women in a small box with each other. I was like, well, this is gonna go well. So I was just like, yeah. And I loved Lash. Was my favorite probably, because I just love her in general. She's so, oh hell no, you know. And she came in there busting ass, just like. Damn. And you know, Tiffany too, and I'm gonna give Tiffany some credit like we did earlier. She was banging in this. I was like, wow, she's right, she's even angrier than normal. So I really liked it. Again, those 2 moments where I was kinda like, oh, I think someone just got hurt. But overall I enjoyed it. It was a decent match. You know, I was very surprised by the outcome, because that's not who I picked. But
no. Our poor baby Kalani got no pins.
None whatsoever.
Not even like, one. I was just like, wow, that's kind of rude.
It was.
You know, yeah. But no, I'm not gonna complain. Like, Blair winning is great. Now let's talk about what happened after the match. So Blair quickly cuts a promo afterwards of, you know, being the Women's Iron Survivor, which then prompts Lyra to come out to do the face-off. And then Lyra gets attacked by a returning Cora Jade, and I'm kind of happy to see Cora back. I love Cora so much. She's been gone for 4 months. She took some time off. I'm not going to say why, but you could double tell that, let's just say, the DD-licious was in full effect for Miss Cora Jade. I was just like, bam! Like, look at that bacon sizzle. I'm trying to be very polite when I say why she was out.
That's fair. I got you.
But it seems, depending on how we build this in the next couple weeks, I was like, triple threat? I'm here for it. Lyra versus Cora versus Blair. That match is gonna rule. I gotta say.
I was not either.
And okay, maybe it was just me, but did it feel like this match was a little one-sided for a good chunk of it? I felt like Carmelo was getting a lot of offense in. And it's weird because he was playing like the overcocky. He was acting like an overcocky heel, and I was like, Lexus is supposed to be the heel here, Carmelo. Like when Lexus King was beating him down and then went to shake his hand, and then Carmelo stuck the middle finger at him. I actually kind of popped for that. That was funny.
Yeah, that was.
I was like, that is the total right response, Carmelo.
Yeah.
The match itself was fine. Everything that happened afterwards, though.
True. But, this is that match that I was talking about that I don't think necessarily needed to be here. It wasn't a bad match. I'm so sick of conspiracies now. It's like, I think they've drugged this on too long. I think they're still trying to, and I don't know if they're just like, oh, we need to get through whatever, but the year, or I don't know. But I'm just like, somebody, did you do it or didn't you do it? Can we just move on? Because I'm kind of done. Because then it's like we got Trick and Carmelo, or at least Trick, thinking everything's A-okay, and Carmelo still has that look on his face, and yada 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 yada. And I'm just like, can we please just stop? And I still don't understand why Lexus King is here.
Yeah, I don't understand why this match. You could have just had this match on regular NXT television, or had this on the pre-show. I would have put Axiom and Nathan. Yeah, I would have switched this match for Nathan and Axiom to be on the card, but it is what it is.
Because, we came out of the women's and we went into this, and it was like, I was on a high with the women's, and then this just took me down. And I was just like, this match just felt weird. It just felt weird. It felt out of place. It felt weak. And then what I mean by weak is that, like, if you looked at the whole picture, it was like, I think it was the weakest link.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know why Lexus King is here. Did they just bring him in for this and that's it? Because, other than, I think he's had, 3 fights since he's been here? Two fights? Is it 2?
Yeah, well, this is his third match because...
So this would be number 3, okay.
Yeah, because he fought Dante Chin at Halloween Havoc, then he went against Brooks Jensen, so Josh Briggs' tag team partner the other week on NXT, and then Lexus versus Carmelo. Yeah, this is his third match.
And I don't get it. We never see him unless it's like some kind of conspiracy, or, there's some sort of something to it. Because even at the end of this match...
It was weird.
It was weird.
This whole feud between him and Carmelo has been weird from the jump. So let's just talk about the ending. So Carmelo picks up the victory. He's walking up the ramp. Lexus is in the ring. So he gets on the mic. There are 2 things that are important that come out of this. Number 1, Lexus King did not attack Trick Williams. So I was like, we didn't think you did, but NXT's got to do something for people who don't connect the dots. That sounds really bad. That's just a pet peeve of mine. I know that we have to simplify a lot of stuff for, the casual audience, but I was like, please don't insult my intelligence, NXT. I'm like, I think that's why I didn't like this ending, because I was like, don't insult my intelligence. We know where the story's going, but I get why we had to do it. And then we get the ultimate motive of why Lexus did this is because he conned Carmelo into getting this match to be on the pay-per-view, so Lexus can say he had a pay-per-view match just starting out in NXT, and just, that I was just like, that's kind of weak as a motive.
Very weak. It was super weak.
I thought it would have worked out had you planted seeds leading into this match. But I was just like, what are we doing? There was no one-up. It was weird. I hated the end of this.
It made no sense.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to wrap up these next 3 segments because we got a backstage, we got an announcement, and another backstage, and then we'll get into my match of the night. So, backstage, we have Cora Jade give an interview how she gave the women's division 4 months off, and now she's ready to run these hoes through everything. So I was just like, listen, I love Cora. I'm excited that she's back. I think she's going to be adding some craziness to the women's division, and I can't wait to see what she has. And then, if it wasn't already crazy enough, NXT decided to be a mad lad, and they announced that our next pay-per-view is going to be Vengeance Day, which I was like, yes, give it to me. Give me a date. So, Vengeance Day for NXT is going to be taking place in Clarksville, Tennessee on Sunday, February 4th, 2024. Most people are like, that's far away. I was like, no. For the Bi-Conics Wrestling Podcast, knowing these dates ahead of time is important because we watch way too many pay-per-views.
Yep.
So, and Vengeance Day technically is the last stop because after Vengeance Day is the big pay-per-view for NXT, which is Stand and Deliver over WrestleMania weekend, which I'm excited for that. And then all of a sudden, now they're on the same page because Carmelo walks in backstage from his match and Trick's like, yo, man, I owe you an apology. I'm like, no, Trick, we do not apologize in this household. I was like, this is the one time where we don't apologize.
Yes, apologizing means you were wrong. You were not wrong.
It's just, baby, you don't got all the facts yet, but it's okay because you got to focus on your match. And then we jump into my match of the night, the men's Iron Survivor Challenge. Jesus, Jiminy Christmas on you, bro.
Absolutely.
Will, when I tell you I have never screamed more in my life than I did during that match, that's saying something because I scream a lot for a variety of different reasons. Lord have mercy. This match was a roller coaster. It had me on the edge of my seat. Like, the last 2 minutes in particular was the loudest I have ever been during a pay-per-view this year for anything, because the in-ring story that we told, everyone loves a good underdog. Let's just set all the pieces up and then we'll talk about some of our favorite spots. So Dijak and Josh Briggs start out this match. Yo, I gotta give it to Josh. Like, this kid came out and he killed it. Josh killed it too. I was so proud of him. Like, oh my God. I was just like, you big beefy country boy. I love you so much. I was like, but you know what? That's okay. Dijak and Josh Briggs start. And then at number 3 is our strong little boy, Tyler Bate. Ooh, he had one of my favorite moves of the night, which we'll talk about in a little bit. Then our baby Trick Williams comes in at number 4. And then finally, Mr. Braun Breaker comes in at number 5. Okay, let's talk about a bunch of our favorite spots because this match was nonstop. They did not let up on the gas.
Not at all. It was so chaotic, and you know, the great thing about it though is that it flowed so smoothly from one to the next, you know, as each one kept coming in. It felt like, because it was so good, I enjoyed it so much, I didn't even realize time had passed.
Right?
And I was just like, so by the time I realized everybody was in there, I was like, oh shit, we're like close to the end of this thing.
I was like, we got like 10 minutes left. But it did not feel like 10 minutes, and I wasn't paying attention to the clock. Like,
I at all.
Because once Braun entered and everybody was in position, the next 10 minutes, all hell broke loose. So, okay, so let's just talk about some of these moments. Dijak just kicking everybody was fantastic to watch. I was like, this is the Dijak that I need to see on a daily basis. Like, this intensity is what I live for. One of my favorite spots is when Josh and Dijak, they both did like off the top rope, like slams of their opponents together in unison. I was like, oh, that was a beautiful thing to see. Tyler Bate with the spinal tap, like towards the last 2 minutes where he's on the top rope and then like 720'd himself onto Trick. I was just like, oh, somebody got hurt. Braun Breaker, when he came in, he speared 3 people and he got 3 points in the span of like 30 seconds.
Oh, I know. That was so funny. I was like, oh, damn. I mean, it was like, yeah, he like speared.
I was like, he was the Lash legend of this. Like, he just came in and destroyed everybody. I forgot who it was, but he picked, as somebody was jumping from the top rope, he speared them off like in the mid-air too. I was like, somebody check on their lungs. But when I tell you, Will, Trick Williams with the underdog getting 4 points within the last 2 minutes of the match was the most beautiful thing that I ever saw. And as soon as he got point 3, I was like, okay, Tyler, Dijak, and Josh are all in the penalty box. Who's left? And then I see that Braun's ready enough to set up a spear. I'm like, oh, Braun's gonna win, isn't he? Oh, he's gonna spear Trick, and then he's gonna pin him and win. But no. As Braun is setting up for the spear, and he runs towards Trick, and Trick answers him with a knee strike to the face, which causes Braun Breaker to fall onto the floor, and Trick within the last 10 seconds pins him for point number 4, and your winner for the men's Iron Survivor Challenge is Trick Williams. And
me too, because I mean up to the last minute he was kicking Trick's ass, and it really wasn't until he hit him with that I was like, holy shit. And then when he like pinned him, I was like, I stood up and went, yeah! And my students were in the other room, and they were like looking, they're like, are you okay? I'm like, oh no, I'm good. I was so freaking excited. And I'm so happy. Jinx, you owe me a coat.
I loved it so much. I am so happy. So Trick Williams is your men's Iron Survivor Challenge, and he's going to go on to New Year's Evil in a couple weeks to face off for the NXT Championship. I was just like, I'm so proud of you.
Well, no, but that's okay.
Now, the question is he going to lose on his own accord, or are we going to get some shenanigans? Is the question.
That's a good question.
Which we'll talk about when we get to our main event for this pay-per-view. Speaking of New Year's Evil, Vic and Booker tell us that the next big special for NXT is New Year's Evil, which is going to be their next special television episode, which is taking place Tuesday, January 2nd, 2024. So this championship being defended that night, which is going to be a lot of fun. So Blair is going to be facing Lyra for the title. Who knows, it might turn into a triple threat. And then Trick is going to be facing, spoiler alert, Ilya for the title at New Year's Evil, which is going to be fine.
Yep.
So I was riding on a really big high, Will. And then we get to this next match. This next match was, okay, this match was weird. First of all, the way that we started this match was weird because we show Kiana James like walking through the new WWE headquarters. I was like, girl, where is this? I was like, this is not the arena. Like, what are we doing? Like, what is happening? Why are we walking? This was weird. So next up, we have the steel cage match between Roxanne Perez and Kiana James. Okay, maybe I had too high of expectations. When I think of cage matches, I'm thinking these women are going to be violent. Like, this is going to be crazy. Like, I don't want to see bleeding as much because I was like, we need to protect everybody, but I'm expecting some crazy stuff. And as somebody who watches the main roster, we were spoiled earlier this year back when Becky Lynch and Trish Stratus had their cage match, and those women opened up the pay-per-view, and that was my favorite match, and they killed it. Like, I was like, ooh, okay, maybe we'll get this in NXT. No, this was not the case. I was a little underwhelmed, and I hate to say that because I like Kiana and I love Roxanne, but this cage match was really tamed, and I was very surprised. It's more like they were wrestling, and I was like, there's a cage around it. This is not a cage match.
No, I was very underwhelmed by this. Like, I was like, oh, okay. I mean, I guess maybe I just have my expectations are just too damn high, I guess. I don't know. All I know is I was expecting like someone was going to get savagely beaten in this cage, and that didn't really happen. Like they I don't know. It was almost like they were like, it's like,
which is really weird because their Devil's Playground match at Halloween Havoc with the limited,
I know,
it was such a smaller space and they were more limited in what they can do, and they made that limited space and what they were given work very, very well. And I was like, you had a whole entire cage to do stuff in, and we didn't really get it. And I think what made this match worse for me is that all of a sudden Izzy comes out and slams the door in Roxanne's face, which allows Kiana to, hit her finisher for the win. I was like, where did Izzy come from? Like, how did she involve? Like, why is she involved in the storyline? Where did she come from? Like, there's a change in the script. Someone changed the script last minute.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. It was really weird. It was really weird. I was expecting this match to be off the hook because of the Halloween Havoc, because of what happened there. I was like, okay, now we're going to put them in a steel cage together? Hell yes. And then it was like, oh, okay. And I literally was, I was like, I don't really know what's happening because it wasn't exciting. I don't think there was anything overly new that was happening. They didn't do anything different than they normally did. I don't know. It was just really weird. I know that both of these women are capable of destroying each other, but I mean, I don't know. It felt held back, or it felt soft. That's the thing. It felt soft. Like, oh, we want to fight, but not really. And then I was just like, then the ending happened. Yeah, believe it or not, this actually ranked lower than Carmelo and Lexis.
I agree with you right there because I'm on the same wavelength. Not to say that this was a bad wrestling match, it was just not a good steel cage.
No.
Now, what I'm hoping is that since they're 1-to-1, I think our final match needs to happen at New Year's Evil, and I was just like, just let it be a regular street fight. Like, just do a street fight, do a weapons wild, do something. Let's just have a standard no DQ fight.
Yeah, they need to be in the street fight, like for sure. They need to
like the street fight needs to be it, and I think Roxanne needs to come out of this feud on top. If we're gonna keep that momentum, because I love Kiana, but yeah, we'll see what happens and if we get this. So from here, from being really, really disappointed, I kind of get a little bit excited because we get NXT bumper. So we are told what's going to be happening on Tuesday's episode of NXT. So we are getting the next start of the chapter, which I love that Vic Joseph said, this is the next chapter in their rivalry. Dijak versus Eddie Thorpe. I was just like, listen, just give me more Eddie Thorpe on my... I love Eddie so much. He's become one of my favorites. I was just like...
I do too. I'm ready for him to catch a damn break.
Seriously, I want him, once whatever this next chapter with Dijak is, I would love to see Eddie go up against Dragon Lee. I'm ready for Eddie to enter the title picture.
Me too.
Like, let's get Eddie into the North American Championship or something.
I mean, I don't want to say they mistreat him. They don't mistreat him, but I feel like I don't think he gets a fair break because they're always putting him up against random people. I mean, it's like, this whole him and Dijak thing, I'm kind of getting tired of it. It's like, I just want what I'm getting tired of is the constant beat down that Eddie gets.
Because he was beat down by Charlie Dempsey and all of them a couple weeks ago.
Which, I'm sorry, NXT is not a good image. You have 3 white men beating on a brown man. Not a good image. And I'm not talking wrestling beat down. I'm talking like beat down. I was a little like, that's a really bad image.
It is a bad image, especially since you have to consider the fact that Eddie Thorpe is also Native American too, which is not great. Which, by the way, shout out to one of our NXT men breakout tournament participants who seems to be another Native American person. I was like, listen, I don't want you to put the Native American boys together and make them a tag team, but
I wouldn't be opposed to it.
Or even let him and Eddie fight it out. I was just like, let them fight it out. I would love to listen. It sounds really bad. I don't want Native Americans to be fighting, but in the terms of wrestling, I would love to see it. I do want to know, that's just a whole nother conversation we can have, but Dijak versus Eddie, and then probably the match I'm actually kind of looking forward. We're getting another mixed 6-person tag with Metaphor taking on Josh Briggs, Brooks Jensen, and Fallon Henley. I was like, oh, I am so excited. This is going to be
Me too.
I'm expecting shenanigans, and I'm here for it.
Absolutely. Oh my God, absolutely.
Listen, I enjoyed the 6-person that we had between Metaphor and Alpha Academy, so I'm excited to see where this goes.
And I thought it was funny that Metaphor was running their mouths after just losing the Heritage Cup.
I was just like, oh my God. Listen, Metaphor is one of my favorite comedians right now. I love it. All right, so now we have come to the main event for Deadline. For the NXT Championship, Baron Corbin is challenging the champion Ilya Dragunov for the title. I want to start off with the positives real quick. I thought Ilya winning was the right choice. Now let's rip this match apart.
Yep.
So this was a good match if this was to be on a regular NXT episode. I feel that Ilya and Baron, I know, can wrestle better than this. I feel like they didn't really connect as much as I thought they were going to this match. There were some fun spots, though, and I was like, in-ring, Baron Corbin is a pretty decent wrestler. I like his wrestling style. Of course, mixing the power and the quickness. And, of course, Ilya being the Mad Dragon himself is always a fun. But I feel like they didn't click and didn't gel. And at first I was like, okay, they're getting used to each other. Like, we're going to see them do crazy things now. This was also kind of in the same vein as the steel cage match. This was very tame. I was kind of surprised of how tame this match was. Again, did I think this match was horrible? No, I enjoyed it for what it was. But again, I feel like my expectations were kind of high for this because I know what Ilya is capable of, and this is just very tame.
And I was telling Mikey off before we started recording, is that this is the most I have ever been impressed with Baron Corbin. And everybody out there who follows us knows how much I can't stand Baron Corbin. And I was actually like, wow, I was actually on his side in this match. I was like, wow, you're okay. You're fighting for something. And that was the thing. It's like, finally, he's fighting for something, not just fighting to be a dick. He is literally fighting for something. And I was like, this is a Baron Corbin I can get behind. Because he wanted something. Because he wants something, then I have something to hold on to. I'm like, okay, you really want this. So I'm going to support you. Even though I'm on Ilya's side, I can still be like, you deserve to do, you deserve this fight. And I was really kind of on his side. And I just was like, I've never seen Ilya, in the short amount of time that I've seen him fight, I've never seen him fight this weakly before. Like, I mean, Baron was destroying him. And I mean, I know Baron's a big guy and he's got a lot of power, but Ilya is like, I mean, he's like a nuclear reactor. And so, and I just thought that I thought he was on autopilot almost. And I don't know, it was weird. I mean, it wasn't a bad match. Again, it was not a bad match. I actually enjoyed the match. But I will agree with Mikey that this felt like a regular episode match. There was nothing spectacular about it. You know, I got the outcome was what I expected, but the match was not what I wanted. You know, I wanted this to be on fire. I wanted this to bring the house down. I mean, this should have been a match that took my breath away. You know, like, you know, I mean, the whole men's, that whole thing, I was literally yelling at the freaking screen and standing up and sitting down and on the edge of my seat. And this one, I just sat there with my arms crossed and I just watched it. And I was like, okay, all right, okay, it's good. Oh, that was a good move. Oh, that was good. All right. Oh, wow. Okay, Baron Corbin, well done. Ilya, you're looking a little tired there, buddy. And I was just like, and I could have done without the commentary from the announcers too, because the whole, oh, you talked about his family, that's what you get, and it was over and over and over again. And I'm just like, oh my goodness. So yeah, this was not a match. This was not the match I was expecting at all. I mean, my expectations were just too high, but I don't think they gave us the fight that we deserved. Because there's been, and with the little amount of buildup that they've had with this particular match, it has been intense. I mean, intense. I mean, when they were doing that, the whole in the ring, talking with each other, you know, blah, blah, blah. And, you know, he kept poking at Ilya and he put the table there and he's like, do it. And then Ilya turned him and hugged him and said, the only person that can bring the dragon down is the dragon himself. And I was like, that right there got me hyped for this match. But it did not live up to it. And I don't know what that was about. And, you know, maybe there was something going on in real life, behind the scenes, whatever. But I didn't get the match that I think we deserved, so to speak. So, yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you, Will. I'm kind of in the same boat. I didn't think the match was bad, any necessarily means, but it was serviceable. And honestly, this felt like more that it belonged on a regular episode of NXT than it did for a pay-per-view, and the final pay-per-view for NXT in 2023 too. So the last bit is that Ilya picks up the win, so he is still your NXT champion, which new.
Yeah.
At this point, Ilya is celebrating in the ring, and then Trick Williams' music hits, which made me happy because now we're getting the visual. Yep. Ilya versus Trick, this kind of like lovely kind of friendship, respect, is going to come to a head at New Year's Evil. I love whoever's the camera person in this. I'm giving you a whole bunch of credit because as the pay-per-view goes off the air, Carmelo is behind Trick coming out and he's walking up, which is obviously to support Trick, but the look on his face is like, I'm gonna kill this man. I'm gonna get what's mine.
Yeah.
When we go off the air, I was just like, listen, I love good, subtle storytelling. That was a beautiful money shot.
You know, the great thing about that, and the reason that I love that shot is because usually it's the opposite. Usually it's Trick following Carmelo out. And now Carmelo has to stand in the background because he lost his fight, except for the one that didn't really matter. But, you know, so I'm just like, oh, how's that taste back there, Carmelo? Not good. I'm pretty sure it's kind of bitter, isn't it? That was a great moment.
And that is how Deadline goes off the air. So we have come to the end. So last thing, Will, we just got to do our ratings and then do the outros and then we're out of here. So I'll go first.
Okay.
Again, I didn't inherently think that Deadline wasn't that bad. I thought the Iron Survivor matches were obviously the highlights of this. but everything interspaced between those two matches was like pretty decent to, it was all right, to underwhelming. Nothing was inherently bad. There wasn't like a horrible match. It was like, oh my gosh, everything is just falling apart at the seams. Burn it with fire. But I felt like this felt more like again, the same thing that I said about Final Resolution when we reviewed it for Impact. I felt this was a specialized 3-hour NXT episode. Like, the matches that did not include the Iron Survivor challenges were okay. I thought the opening match was great. The men and women in the Iron Survivor matches killed it. But then everything else was like, Carmelo versus Lexus was fine. Roxanne versus Kiana in the steel cage was disappointing. And then our main event, Corbin versus Ilya, was okay at best.
Yeah.
So with that being said, I'm going to give this a 7 out of 10, which is still pretty decent. I was just very underwhelmed with everything that we got. And given the fact of my list, this is at the bottom. And even though I still enjoyed myself, everything was just fine. And I'm kind of disappointed because I was expecting more for the final pay-per-view of the year. And I have to say, this is the second deadline event for NXT because last year's was the first one. I gotta say, last year's was a lot better than this one, which sucks. Because last year, that deadline took place at the Performance Center where the NXT tapings are normally taken. They weren't on the road with this, so I just feel bad for everyone that went out to go see this because maybe they enjoyed it and it's different live, but I was so disappointed. But 7 out of 10.
Yep, I'm in complete agreement. 7 out of 10 for all the reasons that you said, because I'm not going to rehash everything we've said, but yeah, mine was 7 out of 10. For the exact same reason.
Alrighty, well, that makes it easy. Well, Will, it has been a true pleasure to review this with you, and I can happily say this now. Congratulations, we made it to the end of the pay-per-view cycle for NXT for the year. And more importantly, you are done with pay-per-view duties for the rest of this month. You've made it.
Yay!
The last couple of days have been crazy. So, with that being said, if you like this review, make sure to subscribe to the Bi-Conics Wrestling Podcast YouTube channel to check out other pay-per-view and TV show reviews. Follow us all over social medias at BC WrestlePod to get of when videos go live, the out-of-context social media clips, and just a variety of other fun stuff. And of course, make sure to subscribe and check us out where all your favorite podcasting can be found and subscribe to the Bi-Conics Wrestling Podcast. It's a lot of fun. It is great. Well, that is going to be the end of this edition of the Ringmasters of Review. From myself and my Los Chicos Gordo co-host Will and the rest of the Bi-Conics boys, remember, take care of yourself, love one another, and as always, stay Bi-Conic, you beautiful bastard.